Every single day in the UK, people go missing. Thankfully, most of these are returned home safe and well, but 1% are either found sadly passed or completely disappear under mysterious circumstances. My channel analyses just some of these strange and mysterious disappearances. This is the baffling mystery of the Yorkshire miner found dumped on a coal pile with a face of absolute terror. Former police officer Alan Godfrey will never forget the shocking sight that greeted him when he arrived at a West Yorkshire coal yard in 1980. He had been called to the yard in Todmorden, where a man's body had been found. It was absolutely baffling. The Yorkshire miner, Zigmund Adamski, had gone missing from his home in Thornfield Crescent at Tingley near Wakefield in June 1980 and was found on top of a pile of coal. Todmorden is connected to Halifax and Manchester, its two closest cities. Todmorden is surrounded by moorland and is located at the confluences of three heavily wooded valleys at the intersection of the wool and cotton trades many years ago, which were the foundation of the town's 18th and 19th century prosperity. Zigmund Adamski was finally found 5 days after he'd gone missing, and former police officer Mr. Godfrey said that when he saw the dead man, his eyes were wide open and he had, I quote, a look of someone who had seen something or someone that had scared him to death, end quote. The 56-year-old miner, who was also known as Ziggy, had set off on June the 6th, 1980 to walk to the local shops to buy groceries. That was the last time that Polish-born Mr. Adamski was seen alive. His wife, who was called Lottie, initially thought that he had been kidnapped. But many days after he disappeared, another coal yard worker named Trevor Parker found his body on top of a 10-foot-high pile of coal at his father's coal yard in Todmorden, around 20 miles from Tingley. When Mr. Adamski was found, he was wearing a suit, but inexplicably his shirt was missing. So was his watch and his wallet. His clothes were said to be strangely improperly fastened, and he had only 1 day of beard growth. How did he have only 1 day of beard growth when he'd been missing for many days? His hair had been cropped short in a roughly cut manner. His body was covered in burn marks on his head, neck and shoulders, as if he'd been tortured. His face, it was reported, showed absolute terror, but there were no injuries to explain the cause of death, not even any broken bones. The burns were said to be covered in a strange ointment, a green to yellow colour that could not be identified by scientists, and this was a real mystery. James Turnbull, the coroner who dealt with Zigmund's death, said it's the biggest mystery of his career. Exhaustive checks failed to reveal any record of Zigmund having been treated at any hospital during his missing days. And it was at this point that questions began occurring regarding the origin of this inexplicable ointment and who applied it to Zigmund. It was not just the usual investigators, the police and the coroners who were attracted to this strange case. A very famous ufologist, also called Adamski, offered his own theories on this strange case. He believed extraterrestrials abducted the Yorkshire miner by mistake. The speculation of an extraterrestrial encounter was fueled by the policeman who originally found Zigmund's body, and this policeman was called Alan Godfrey. Many months after finding Zigmund's body, Alan was again on duty in Todmorden at 5 a.m. He claims he encountered a diamond-shaped UFO, and this made headlines all over the world. Alan said, and I quote, "I wish I'd never seen the UFO, particularly because of the effects on my children. It's not easy having a policeman as a father, but when he's a policeman who saw a UFO, it's even worse," and I end quote. This was such a turning point in Alan Godfrey's life. He left the police force and then had a new role as a speaker at a charity at fundraising events. Is there really a link between the UFO that the police officer saw and Adamski's disappearance and ending up inexplicably on that 10-foot high pile of coal? Well, in the past 20 years, there have been many sightings in the Pennine Hills around Todmorden, the UK, of UFOs and orbs. It is regarded as one of Britain's UFO hotspots. But some say these are just lights in the sky, drones, aircraft or satellite. The coroner is unconvinced about the presence of paranormal activity. Although he still has many unanswered questions regarding Zigmund's disappearance and death, he is opting for an earthly rather than extraterrestrial explanation. But he does say, and I quote, "In 50 years' time, if we discover aliens have been visiting us and we didn't know about it, then that might give an answer," end quote. But after all these years, Alan Godfrey, the police officer who saw the diamond-shaped UFO, still has no doubts, leaving thoughts of the extraterrestrial in the minds of all those involved. Even more strangely and inexplicably, exactly 100 years before Adamski went missing, another man named William Weedle, who was aged 69 years old, also went missing from Todmorden. Nobody could find him for a month when he was found floating in the Irish Sea. William Weedle had left his home just to go for a walk, and yet he mysteriously disappeared. Nobody knew where he'd gone, nobody could find him, and a month later he was found floating in the sea. William Weedle was found dead, supposedly drowned, but how was it that he was found in the sea, which is over 100 miles from the inland town of Todmorden? So how could Adamski have died? Was it a professional hit? But no coal stains were found on his body or clothes, So how could they have carried him up a 10-foot pile of coal without any stains on his body? There was no evidence to suggest how he died. Did he walk up there to die? But why would he do that? And why would someone torture him with burns, only to climb up a 10-foot high pile of coal and place him on top? What was this strange green gel found on his skin? Why were his clothes improperly worn? Detectives believe he was dressed after death. So why was he naked when killed? Oddly, a herd of cattle went missing on the same day, only to be found miles away in another field. Is this a coincidence, or is this connected? There are many reasons to believe why paranormal or extraterrestrial reasons are behind his inexplicable death. The unidentified green gel that was found on his skin. The lack of evidence to suggest just how he died. The looking like he'd been dropped from a height. The look of terror on his face. And a UFO being seen months later by a police officer, the same police officer who was the detective on his case. This police officer inexplicably had 45 minutes missing time after driving away from the UFO and not even remembering turning on the ignition. I believe the most likely scenario was that Zigmund Adamski was abducted by a UFO and kept aboard for 5 days. Why else would he have burn marks, strange green gel, and seemingly been dropped from a height? But what do you think? Please leave your comments below. May we never forget the strange and mysterious death of Zigmund Adamski.